everybody. Welcome to the Patriot Show. I'm your host, Anthony Stephen Malone, the Rogue Warrior. Today we have a very special guest on our show, all the way over from America, Jason Piccolo. Incredible story, a lot of experience both in the military and after he left the military. Hello, Jason. How are you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Hey, it's an absolute pleasure and a privilege to have you on the Patriot Show as well, mate. Now, a lot of my viewers, America, Canada, will know exactly who you are, mate. But my viewers in England, the United Kingdom, and in Europe, can you give me a little bit about your background when you were younger before you joined the army?
Oh, younger. Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
younger.
let's go back 28 years. So I'm 48 now. So I grew up in New Jersey, a small state, right by the mountains here, and I just normal childhood. Nothing really exciting. Not a stellar student, and not a stellar college student. So then I ended up joining the army, when I was 20 years old. So 28 years ago, and I joined the U.S. Army, and I was an artilleryman. As an enlisted person. And then later on, I became a commissioned officer as an infantry officer after I went to college. So, it was a very interesting childhood when it comes to, not being interesting, I should say.
No, you're also what I've got notes about you because obviously we've spoken quite length. You're a very humble man as well. You've done a lot in the military and afterwards as well. But we ain't going to go too much into that. But I will ask the question, why did you join the military originally?
I always wanted to be a soldier, and I always wanted to be a policeman. And I always figured the best way to get there was to become a soldier first, and then later on get into law enforcement. And that's exactly what I did. I went to college, got my degree in law enforcement after the army, and then I got a job working on our border here as a border patrol agent. And then I became what they call a special agent. And I've been a special agent with various agencies over the past 21 and a half years. I also got recalled as an officer in the Army and did a tour in Iraq in 2006.
Yeah.
So I got recalled, did about a year and a half altogether when I got recalled.
Yeah, it's you've obviously been there, seen it, and got the T-shirt as well. How did you find the transition for you personally from the military into civilian street, but you went into an agency, so it wasn't dissimilar to the sort of things that you.
Yeah, it was different going out when I was a kid. It was different going to college after the Army, because going to college when you're around a lot of younger people who have no real life experience, and at this time you're a soldier and you're like, you're opinionated, and they're just learning their opinions.
Yeah.
So I wasn't as patient as I am now, because I teach college now. So I'm always like, if I have a veteran or anything else in my class, I kind of can tell when they're writing their papers and everything about their experience. But yeah, it was a little bit different. And then later on, transitioning into the, as a border patrol agent, it's semi-military like. So it wasn't that difficult. Now, getting back from the war after being in the government, that was a little different transition. I'm a little bit older at this time. I'm in my 30s, and coming back and not having any, because I was recalled over here in the United States, you can get recalled, and you're not specifically with a unit when you get back. So when I got back, I just kind of transitioned into my own life, and it was a little difficult at first, until I got back into a routine and found new missions to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I find a lot of that when I speak to a lot of veterans and people who are just coming out transitioning in the out the American military. As soon as they find another task or a mission to do, it makes the transition a lot easier for them as well. So it's
Yeah,
interesting that you brought that up as well.
yeah. And then later on in life, I started the podcast. And I imagine the same way with you. It's like therapy. Sitting here and talking to different people, it's almost like having your own therapy session. Because I know, like back in the day when I was having some problems here and there, I would go to different uh, counselors, different people to talk to, and you can never really find the right one. I eventually did, But then I'm like, hey, you know what? When I'm doing a podcast, it's almost like I'm getting a lot of things I would get out in a therapy session. I'm getting out in the podcast.
Absolutely. I think also because you're one of the people who's quite easy to speak about your experiences, which is you had a lot of experience. A lot of the younger guys who are watching your podcast are listening to what you're saying and they're going through it as well. So I think that's very important. What's your podcast called over there?
I have a podcast called The Protectors, and it's about military, law enforcement, emergency responders, firefighter types, and those that support them. And I've actually transitioned it more to now the protector community, because a lot of us as family, as parents, as fathers, as mothers, we're protectors as well. So it's kind of like a non-political show. We just kind of talk about, life experiences. So many different guests, yourself included, which will be kind of in an upcoming show. Lot of different personalities, a lot of really good conversations. So it's
Yeah,
fun.
it's if people want to find your podcast, this is unusual. You're on mine, but I'm
I
advertising
know.
yours. 'Cause what you do is incredible. You do some incredible work.
You
How
too.
can they find you?
Sure, just check out if you go to any major podcast, you can go to the Protectors with Jason Piccolo, and YouTube. It's the Protector Show on YouTube, and
Great.
I'm really trying to boost up my YouTube numbers now because I want to start doing a lot more streaming.
Yeah, I think it's important in what you're doing. You're actually helping a lot of people, a lot of families out there as well. So if all my viewers are watching this, check it out. You will not be disappointed at all. Now, on that one, you've also written a book as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I wrote a couple books. One's a really short book, and it's about our Southwest border crisis here. And then I wrote Unwavering. I haven't pulled this book out in a while, but a couple years ago, I wrote my book called Unwavering, A Border Agent's Journey. And I go through my experience in the military and work in the Southwest border, work in counter narcotics, work in human smuggling, human trafficking, and a bunch of other jobs I've held over the past about 20 something years now. So yeah, it's like sometimes I look in the mirror and go, wow, that guy's almost 50 years old.
Well, we've spoken, haven't we? And it's the 20th anniversary this year,
Yep,
September
20
the 11th.
anniversary since September 11th.
And wow, we like 20 years ago we went to war.
And
On the ground line.
it was weird because in the 1990s, I was in the Army. And then on September 11th, 2001, after I got commissioned, I was attending infantry school as an officer. And on that day is when we got hit. So everybody that I was there with at school with were all infantry officers. And to think that we went from a peacetime army to a wartime army over 1 week is just it was amazing. And I wish I kept in contact with everybody on there to see where they ended up, but still keep in contact with some. But just imagine all of them that have gone to war.
It's a bit of an experience. I'm still in contact with people who were first went over to the Middle East, Iraq, Afghanistan back in 2003, 2002, 2003. And it's incredible to see where they are now.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people who I know are now colonels, brigadier generals. Work that one out.
Isn't it crazy? Like a lot of people I commission with now are like colonels and they're up there. I'm like, weird. It's just it's interesting. Definitely interesting.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of interviews which I've done, which I will be releasing shortly as well. And some of these people, their careers is incredible. I was just honored to be able to know them and go to war with these people in the early days as well. So if people want to find your book, where can they find that? Can you give us a little bit more information about what is that?
Yeah, sure. So the book is basically my memoir. And it goes through like a lot of things I did in the government. And one of the things I did in the government was I found out something bad was happening when I actually worked for the White House Security Council. And I worked for this thing called the Human Smuggling Cell, which was supposed to stop the little children that were getting smuggled across our border. And what happened was I found out that our government was releasing a lot of these little kids into criminals' hands, and I stepped up and I became a whistleblower. So I go into that inside the book, and I talk all about that. And I wasn't the whistleblower like a lot of people think, like a Snowden or anything else like that. I didn't leak to the media. I went through government channels and legally blew the whistle and raised awareness of what was going on. And yeah, you could find that book. You could find it on Barnes and Noble. You could find it at Amazon. And I priced it at cost. A lot of people, with this book, I wanted people to understand what was going on. Same thing with my other book. So I literally priced them for like whatever the minimum amount you have to charge for the book is through Amazon. And yeah, you can get the book at cost, and you can read my memoir. You can read my other book, which is Out of the Shadows, which kind of gives a really in-depth factual look at our southwest border and specifically migrant children.
Yeah, I think what you've done and shining a light on a problem with children who are obviously in harm's way. It took a lot for you to do that. It was the right thing to do as well. And you got a lot of respect from a lot of people over that. I know that anyway, because I've spoken to a lot of people over there. And the issues to do with human trafficking, we've obviously spoken off camera about a lot of this. It's a big problem in your southern borders. We have it in the United Kingdom as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've no major details, but what sort of things have you come across on your southern border?
Well, the southern borders, it's the traffic that comes across the border. And just for the people who don't understand the difference in when I mentioned smuggling and trafficking, smuggling itself it's a $150, $200 billion a year industry. And that is where a person will pay a smuggler to bring them across the border, and then the person is free to go and do whatever they want. Now, trafficking is when someone doesn't have the option of leaving. They're trafficked, they're brought across the border, they're given over to someone else, and then they're used in some sort of servitude, whether that's sexual or labor servitude.
Yeah.
And that is a difference between smuggling and trafficking. Now, our southwest border, we're seeing numbers now just about the encounters, meaning they've been encountered by law enforcement, the Border Patrol, or one of our other uniform agencies. Our numbers are up probably about 200 to 300%. So the border is just getting overrun right now, because before, if you were caught, you would be sent back. Now, if you're caught, you're released. You're released into the U.S. So now we don't know if a lot of people who could be potentially traffic victims are still are with these group of people who are coming here and released. The other thing it's not like the Slavic nations. It's not just like what you see shipping containers type. There's different types of trafficking here in the U.S. A lot of it does come through the border, but the other trafficking we have here, and I'm sure that's one thing I really want to find out about in the UK is this, if you have the same type of trafficking where we have U.S. citizens going online and enticing young children and teens through the internet, and then recruiting them, not really recruiting them, but bringing them into the world of trafficking. And, we have anybody could be, they're using social media, they're using everything, and they're getting their hooks into people. And they're bringing them then into a life of sexual servitude, especially a lot of teens and children. And that is one thing it's in every town, it seems, in the United States. And we have 325 million people. So you can imagine how widespread it is. They say the last, at any given time, there's 150,000 trafficking victims in the U.S., domestic human trafficking. So it's a massive problem here.
We have got problems with that over the United Kingdom as well, especially Europe. But in our own country, the UK, we do have problems here. Speaking to the former Deputy Director of the National Crime Agency, he was giving me the brief on the rundown on that, obviously Roy. Unbelievable. The numbers we're talking about just in England alone is the percentage rise, about 75%, it's went up during COVID. It's human trafficking, child exploitation.
Yep.
It's went through the roof everywhere. So it is just in America to you as well.
You know, your podcast and my podcast, a lot of people have probably been in either the military or law enforcement or something. They're not, they look outside the bubble, but we have a lot of people that live inside a bubble that they don't realize how much evil is really out there
Yeah.
and how people will sell children over and over and over again.
Mm.
You know, some of these trafficking victims are being sold, 3 to 5 times a day. I think the average is 5.4 times a day,
Yeah.
7 days a week. Who's the other evil aspect of it is who's buying these children? Who's
That
paying
is,
for
yeah.
their services?
It's an important question. That if there wasn't customers, there wouldn't be a need. So that's something else
Exactly.
in law enforcement, National Crime Agency, Scotland Yard in the UK, and agencies obviously over in America. If there's not a call for it, it wouldn't have increased. And 75% increase just in the United Kingdom in the past year is phenomenal. The kind of money we're talking about here, it isn't in millions.
It's
It's like
billions.
1.5 billion just in
Mm-hmm.
the UK alone, just the UK,
Yep.
billion. And that money is obviously going back into organized crime and it's fueling it.
Mm-hmm.
People have also got to look at this. A lot of viewers out there, imagine people are importing drugs, they bring it in, they sell it once, and that's it.
Yep.
Human trafficking, they can sell the product time and time again. It's a problem.
And it's traveling too. You know, I did a lot of, like, we have the Super Bowl over here and we have different sporting events. So a trafficker will take 3 women with him. I shouldn't even say women, 3 teens,
Change, yeah.
and bring them to an event, sell them over and over during a weekend, make $35,000 for those 3 a weekend, get to another event the next weekend, and go on and on and on again. And it's not happening in, like, we have sleazy hotels here. It's not I mean, it does happen there, but a lot of times this is an upscale locations, because remember, the people buying them have money. This
Yeah.
isn't like, we have prostitution over here, and that's the other aspect of it, is we have prostitution, we have legalized prostitution, but when you're using a pimp and your proceeds go to a pimp, that pimp is a trafficker. If you're a teen and you're in servitude, even if you're an adult and you're in servitude and you have to give your money to that pimp, he's a trafficker. Gone are the days where we have these pimps, running around with these big cars and furs on like they did in the 1970s. Now, the prostitutes themselves, not all of them are dressed up in these skimpy outfits. They're bringing them to hotels. They're selling them. They're moving on. The pimps will have 2, 3, 4 different phones with different customers using these social media apps. It's not all dark web. A lot of it is out in the open.
Yeah.
And it's right there. It's right in front of our faces. We have a lot of people over here that want to be vigilantes, that want to say, hey, we're going to go hunt human traffickers.
Mm.
But really, if you take a trafficker out of the variable, you're going to go to jail for one. And the other thing is, what about the victim? If you go and allegedly rescue a victim, how do you know you're really going to rescue them? It's, these victims have been almost beat into this life of servitude. And in order for them to transition from victim to survivor, they do need help, but they need the right help. You can't just grab someone and take them out of the life and expect them to thrive right away. Not everybody has that option. But so you need this after action, after it happens, to be able to help these people out.
I think there is a lot of good work being done by agencies and the counsellors within the agencies. So if there's a task and say the safe house is hit, the traffickers are arrested, the girls go into counselling. I think that's so important because one, it's good for them as well. It helps to bring them away from that life. Two, you find more about how they are operating. I think that's important because it's a massive, the infrastructure, illegal infrastructure of what is there is phenomenal. Especially now that we know organized crime is now working with known terrorist organizations as well. So that's another angle which people have People don't think of that. They think they're two separate entities.
No,
We're not going to
it's
go through
money. It's all money.
your money.
Everything. Money and power. Money and power. Yeah. Ideology is like somewhere way over here, and a lot of times that's where the foot soldiers come in. But you know, just as well as I do, is money and power, and money being primary source. And you know, back to the social media apps.
Yeah.
When these oh no, I was just saying, like, yeah, it's all connected. But when the social media apps and this is where I'm going to bring you into the variable here is a lot of these traffickers, when they're enticing and they're trying to recruit new servants, they are damn good source recruiters. They're running 5 or 6 different games at a time trying to pull these girls in. And it's almost like you're recruiting agents. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to pull them in and do everything. They're emotionally, physically. If they need drugs, if one girl needs emotional support, they'll give them emotional support. If one girl needs drugs, they'll give them drugs. If one girl needs a father figure, they'll give them a father figure. They'll do whatever they can to bring them into the trafficking world. Because once they have them in, then they could blackmail them. That's the other thing we're seeing now is they're blackmailing the girls. And I say it does happen to boys, but primarily it is girls. So
yes. Yeah.
They're blackmailing them. They're taking pictures of them. They're doing everything they can to bring them. And then later on, they'll brand them with tattoos, with other means. And they just really bring them into the life where into the quote unquote game. That's what they call it. So it's happening everywhere. And I caution parents that, you know, you and I grew up at a different time where, you know, our parents had a barrier where they would lock the front door, and that was a security blanket. Now children, a lot of them have these phones. Yeah. And these phones, you need to be able to have difficult conversations with your kids saying, who was that you're texting? What are you doing? Let me take a look at your phone. And not always accusatory, but start these difficult conversations. As a parent, you need to build the same type of rapport as these traffickers do. You need to build a relationship with your kids. If you let them go off and do their own thing, idle minds, idle hands, you know.
Yeah, I think that's. I think I don't want to shock my viewers too much in the United Kingdom as well, but I've seen evidence of these traffickers and the organisations. They target particular areas, and they target schools within the areas as well for a set period of time. I've got kids as well, so keeping tracks of the phones and having open conversations is very important, I think, especially if you've got young daughters. Just make sure that they're aware that not everyone is nice out there, and they're aware that there is a few idiots out there as well. You've got to be careful because kids don't need to know everything, but they do need to be aware that there is obviously a bad world out there, for want of a better word on it. You touched on something and you said social media platforms. We're not going to name any particular one because everyone has an idea what that one's going to be.
Yeah.
But they've done some good work, not all bad. Some of these social media platforms, the people who run them, have done some good work, but there's a lot more can be done with them. They should monitor more. I'm going to ask you the question here. Do you think the people who run some of these social media platforms could be more cooperative with law enforcement?
More cooperative? Oh, yeah, they could be. But then you have two sides because everything here is so political. I'm sure it is over there.
Yeah.
Or if social media sides with law enforcement, they may be seen as conservative and lose their fan base or whatever. So, I mean, should they be? Yes. Especially when if you have a court order and you need to look at it and it's going to save someone's life and you can prove it and it's legal. Yeah. Carte blanche access to law enforcement. I don't know. I mean, that cuts both ways.
Yeah.
So, but there should be, when it comes to the trafficking and stuff, there should be some way that the social media companies can monitor keywords or something.
Yeah, I think monitoring, obviously, keywords, but I think the time period, I think this is key. The time period from a request from law enforcement about a certain social media account it should not take weeks or months.
Yeah.
It should be days, because these are young children on the end of all of this. Obviously, we're not going to name the network. You know who you are.
We know.
Right.
Yep.
But I've physically seen that it took over a month for some of these documents to go through, and they were holding on to them. And personally, that's wrong. I think a lot of law enforcement are going to say the same. It should take hours or days, especially if they've got something very urgent. I'm not saying give them everything on everybody out there. That would be wrong as well. But when there's an urgent case where children are involved, social media platforms, get a grip, give you information. Okay, there you go. I've said my little bit on that one.
I'll concur. How's that sound?
That sounds good. Yeah, I thought you might not be able to say that, but I have. So there we go.
Well, the other thing too is a lot of these social media organizations and a lot of these corporate heads do have a lot of former law enforcement involved with them, which is good to get that integration. They need to have more of that. Sometimes lawyers speak. It's lawyers. That's who comes up with all this stuff. The ground truth, the people that are on the ground, the law enforcement on the ground know the reality. The people on the ground know the reality. The people working at these social media platforms probably know the reality. It's when you get the lawyers speaking there and trying to get through those layers of bureaucracy and legalese, that's where it gets tough.
Yeah, I didn't realize just how until a couple of months ago, when I was speaking to an agent down on your southern border, and she had a problem in getting information off a social media network, and we couldn't believe it. She had all the evidence, everything was watertight, and they wouldn't hand it over, and they couldn't proceed. So I think sometimes they do some good work. Don't get me wrong. I'm not beating anybody with like a stick here, but I think a lot more could be done. And I think
absolutely,
former people in from law enforcement into the social media platforms could be the answer.
Or at least get some grip on what's going on out there. Because remember that bubble? Let's backtrack about 20 minutes when we talk about the bubble.
Yeah.
A lot of them are in the bubble. A lot of people don't get out of the social media, so they don't realize what's going on around them, and they don't realize the type of evil people that are out there. Yeah. And it's amazing. You know more than a lot of people out there about what is truly going on in the world. And I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I'm just trying to say that not everything is, the Brady Bunch or the nice families that you see on TV.
I think the men and women who guard our walls know what is there. Sometimes the public, it's best that they don't get to know everything, so they can go in their little bubble around their normal day-to-day life. As long as these people acknowledge and realize that there's agencies and agents out there and officers who are risking their lives to enable them to carry on in their little bubble and not have to worry about anything. Because some of the violence that's down in the southern borders of your country, and some of the violence we've seen in the inner cities, which my friends in the National Crime Agency have been telling me about, some of the violence within the human trafficking rings is phenomenal. These children have been kept in cages, all right, with locks on, all right. This is an horror film. This is reality. I've seen the pictures of this. All right. I've seen the files.
And we're not talking about these government cages. We're talking about, we have labor trafficking over here too, where they're putting kids in cages and making them work all day, and end of the day they're putting them back. It's nuts. And the sex, and not to be alarmist, but there are little children, teens and younger, being abused, raped. They're being raped over and over and over again.
I think if people open their eyes a little bit, and there wasn't a call for this as well. A lot of people see a lot, but they turn the blind eye to it. They don't speak out. If you're out there and you see something involving children that doesn't look right, and if you're a parent, if it doesn't look right or doesn't fit, all right? All you got to do is drop a dime on it.
And the other thing, the people buying children, raping children, are from every walk of life.
Yeah.
They have a lot of money. They have a little money. There's cops. There's police. There's firefighters. There's everybody in government. There's pastors. There's the guy working on the street in the market. They're everywhere. It's not just some deviant guy that's sitting in his basement who's a keyboard commando. No, these are normal people out. I shouldn't say normal. They're sick people out there doing it, but they walk around as normal guys.
Yeah, well, on that bombshell, I think we've given the viewers a little bit to think about on that one. I want to change the angle of the interview now. You do a lot of work and you help a lot of veterans out there from law enforcement and the military communities and the services. Can you tell me a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, I try to raise as much awareness as possible, and that's within my community, whether it's getting help for post-traumatic stress, whether it's getting help with toxic exposures. And a big thing, because I've been in law enforcement for so long, is trying to help veterans with that transition. Try to help them write their resumes, how to help them do interviews, how to help them get jobs with the federal government in law enforcement or anything. The most I could do is I have a platform, I might as well use it, whether it's through the podcast or whether it's actually volunteer with a couple different organizations, is really try to get that next mission set going. Like you said, these podcasts, everything I do, writing, everything that's my next mission.
Yeah.
I want veterans to know that when they get out of their service was one mission they had. It's one bookmark in their long life. And now they need to transition into their next mission. They need to treat it almost like they have to plan. You have to plan, and execute. You can't just jump out and say, okay, I'm here. I'm a veteran. Give me a job. No, it's like, hey, I'm out. I have a lot of great skills. I've learned a lot. Let me learn and move on to my next mission.
Yeah, exactly. I think speaking as a veteran as well, I think if you plan, it's good. The veteran community is a big community, okay? Like the Airborne Brotherhood, it's huge, it's worldwide, okay? If the veterans are out there and you're battling, and a lot of it is pride, they don't want to ask for help as well, okay? Ask another veteran and you'll be amazed how many vets have been through this. I've been through a hard time. You've been through a hard time, Jason, as well. We got through it. Other people helped us as well. Now we help other people ourselves. So if you're a vet out there from any of the services or even one of the agencies and you're transitioning out, you're going through a bit of a rough time, pick up the phone, speak to someone you actually know, and you'll be amazed. Most of the men and women have been through what you're going through now as well. You're not alone. Remember that. It's important. Pick up the dog and bone and have a chat.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about the phones is like text people too. Text, little shoot back and forth. Hey, you got a time? I'm feeling a little crappy right now. Or hey, I don't know about doing about this. But pride, don't let your pride get in the way, because we've all been there.
If you've got any advice to anyone who's sat at home now going through a bit of a rough one, what would that be?
Well, one thing, like I said about the podcast, I've talked to everybody from Delta Force, Tier 1 operators down to gunners. Is everybody has some sort of problem, but doesn't mean we're broken. It just means we have to get through it. You're not broken. You're not broken. You're not broken. Just got to keep saying that over and over again, and find a mission. And once you find another mission, it could be anything. One thing I like to do is, well, you guys probably can't do it over there, is I like to restore old weapons, rusty weapons, but you can swords and stuff like that maybe, but restore something, find anything, if you want to build something, build it. You want to be a wood maker. It doesn't always have to be something that's going to be part of your professional resume. Yeah. You can have a personal resume, things that make you feel good, things that are, when you put them on there, it's like, that's a good thing. So it doesn't always have to be making money and building brands.
Sometimes it's about doing something that makes you happy, puts a smile on your face, and helps other people. That's the important thing. I think the veteran community in America and the UK is starting to come together a lot more now. What I've seen in COVID, though, it's brought out the best in some people and the worst in others as well, which isn't a good thing. But always remember, you're not alone out there, and there's some good people out there as well. Always remember that there's more good than what there is bad out there as well.
Truth.
On that one, what have you been doing over the weekend? I'm intrigued with this.
I went, I started, my friend was Explosive Ordnance Disposable, EOD, and he started a racing team. So a few months ago, we went out there, my son and I, and we raced these old Mustangs, but 1997 Mustangs, and you do endurance races. It's like around, not a circle track, but like a real track. And you'd race 6 hours one day, 8 hours the next, about an hour and a half each time you're a driver. And it's fun, man. I went out there over the weekend and we raced. Our car actually won the first place in its class. And it's fun, man. You go up to 120, 125 miles an hour on a straightaway, 60, 80 miles an hour, going around corners and curves. And it's amazing, man. Rain or shine. It's
American muscle, can't beat it. We can't do that in England. Our roads are too small and our cars are too bloody small as well over here. But I've driven the Mustangs. I know they're absolutely incredible.
Mustang 5-liter. It's amazing, brother.
Yeah, well, the next time I'm over stateside, I'll be coming to see you again.
Absolutely.
Right, have a good one. Right, I'm gonna tie down the interview now. Is there anything else that you would like to say on the interview?
No, just check out my my YouTube, because not only do I put my interviews on there, I do have a whole block on there about trafficking, how to identify a trafficking victim, how to identify a trafficker, and a lot of interviews I've been having with different organizations that are fighting human trafficking. So check that out as well.
You will. At the bottom of the interview, all the links and information will be there. So everyone's watching this, click underneath this. There'll be a bar. You'll have all the information there, all the links, a lot of information. Have a good read of it, and you honestly, it'll open your eyes as well, especially the people in the UK who don't realize how big a problem the human trafficking is across the United Kingdom at this moment in time as well. All right, Jason. Well, it's been a pleasure as always having you on, mate. It's been good to speak to you. So, would you like to say goodbye to my viewers over in America and the UK?
Thanks a lot, everybody. I appreciate you having me on.
Happy days. All right, Jason, thank you very much for that. Everyone who is deployed at the moment, stay safe. Everyone, I'll see you on the next show. Take care. Best regards from the Patriot team. Goodbye, everybody.